you've got to be very wary that, who you're dealing with. And as long as it's at that low level, harmony is restored after the beef is squashed.
Now, when they take two people in the cell under the stairs and say, work it out, do they ever talk it out? Like, oh, I didn't say Chomo, I said Chromo. I thought you had Down syndrome. And they all laugh it off and move on. Do they ever talk it out?
You know what? Tony said he has used humor to diffuse many a potentially violent situation, but talking it out is more on the female side. In the men's side, they're fast to the fists. You see a guy, he'll be walking down the corridor, he'll look at a guy say, what are you looking at? He'll say nothing. You calling me nothing. Bam, bam, bam. It's on just like that. It's like a powder keg of stress, especially for the guys who are unsentenced. So being unsentenced is more stressful because you don't know what's going to happen to you, and you're looking to take that stress out on somebody.
I asked you what the strategy was, right? For a guy who's not, Herculean. It sounds like losing is it. Like if I go in there, I can't beat up these guys. Just go in, show heart. I hope they accept that. It sounds
the toughest guys have the highest mortality. Look at Nick. He was proud of winning all these fights. The more fights you win, the more challenges you get. Everybody wants to make their name off the toughest guy in the building. So eventually you're going to come a cropper. My strategy was, I've done prison survival advice videos, and one of them is titled Make Alliances with the Right People. I had Wildman going in. I had 2 Tonys later on.
Okay. Why did that guy torture? You mentioned it was mostly drug dealers, but it wasn't all drug dealers. It sounded like he had a method or like a motive.
Oh, he loved it. He loved it. So he was.
I guess everyone needs a hobby. Okay.
He was going to court one day, and he was in a holding cell, and there was a suspected Chomo. So he held a kangaroo court with him as the judge, and it was decided to stab the Chomo, tie him up, and stab him, which he did. And then he put a knife into the eyeball of the Chomo. He didn't gouge his eye out. He just put it to the eyeball of the Chomo like he was going to take the eyeball out. And he told everybody in there, if any of you snitch on what I've done, I will find you, or someone in the prison system will find you. We'll fucking take your eyeballs out. We'll fucking eat them.
Jesus. So that was just kind of his. Some people like to read. Some people like TV shows. Some people like exercise, and he liked breaking people's knees with ball-peen hammers and threatening to gouge your eye out.
Oh, yeah. And the day he got arrested, it was headline news. They had like a tank on the street, and they had like helicopters over the house. And in the end, it looked like he was going to go down in a shootout. But in the end, one of his female friends came forward and helped the negotiator get him out. He was full-on hardcore.
Were the different gangs, like you said, like it's all about business at the end of the day. They want to keep making their money. They want to keep getting their drugs. But was there almost like a hierarchy, like among the non-gang related prisoners, where it's like, oh, okay, thank goodness the Italians took power from the Aryans. They all suck, but at least the Aryans, they were way more brutal. Or the Hispanic gang's in charge right now. I really hope that the black or Italian or whatever gang takes power because they're being so brutal. Or was it all like mutually assured destruction? The Hispanics cut a guy's head off, and so then the Italians and the Aryans do it, and then the blacks have to show they have to do it too, like just constantly one-upping each other? Or what was that dynamic?
Okay, the reason that everybody's prison stories are different, and some people will call other people out and say it's not like that rule isn't right, people don't behave like that. Well, the reason that everybody's prison stories are different is because every prison yard has different prisoners, different guards. There's different rules depending upon who the leader is. For example, I was in one building where every night there was like a fellatio show. There was a white guy getting a blowjob from a trans prisoner in the building opposite, and we'd all watch it and just do this like running commentary of jokes, which was the funny thing. But when that head of the whites got moved out of the building and a new head of the whites came in, they sent word to the opposite building saying that white guy getting the blowjob was going to get attacked the very next day unless it stopped immediately. So it depends upon the characters who are in charge, and that's constantly changing.
That makes sense.
So I watch another YouTuber. What's Wes's last name? Is it Watson?
Watson.
Wes Watson, yeah.
Yeah. And he takes a lot of pride in the fact that he was a shot caller. He was in charge. But hypothetical Woody doesn't want to be a shot caller. That's a lot of attention. And I don't think shot callers have a really great track record of of an easy time, right? At some point, someone is it good to be the shot caller? It seems like a bad strategy.
If you're a big tough guy and you can handle yourself, there are perks. And respect to Wes Watson, he's blown up on YouTube. He's doing really good. My co-defendant Wildman loves watching his videos. Every time I go to his house, he's got a Wes Watson video on. I think they're going to end up doing a Skype. I'm training Wildman right now in Skypes. He's not quite there yet. So Wildman arrives at a prison. He's just been sentenced, and they come up to him and they say, "What are your charges?" And he says, "I've had a long day. I'm going to sleep." And they're saying, "No, you don't understand who we are. You need to tell us what your charges are." So he knocks the guy out and he goes to sleep.
I'm going to go with assault.
They say to him, "You shouldn't have done that. We're going to find out who you are." And Wildman's like, "Okay, find out who I am." As he sleeps, and he wakes up, and they come back and they say to him, "We know who you are now. Do you want the guy's job who you knocked out?" we need you to apologize to him, but we're going to give you his job. And Wildman, he's done lots of videos on my channel. There's a Wildman playlist about him running the building. He's got to keep the whites, the youngsters, under control. And he's running like he's making hooch. He's controlling the gambling. And there are a lot of perks in prison to doing that stuff if
Hooch
you've got
is
no
alcohol,
money
right?
whatsoever. Everybody's got to get the hustle on one way or another. So Wes Watson, if that was his hustle, so be it.
Wow. Well, I mean, at least there's a lot of upward mobility for careers. Beats the shit out of that guy, and it's like, you know what? Was there like an offer of pay, or like, hey, we'll give you drugs to do? I assume like most of the payment was like you get your heroin or you get your coke or whatever.
So if Wildman is manufacturing hooch, he gets to keep a percentage of the hooch. If he's running the gambling tables, he gets to keep a percentage of the take.
Okay. Now, what if your charges aren't that good, right? Like you're not a chomo, but you're maybe like a big time tax evader. Do they like give you an extra hard like tax evasion? You're kind of pussy prisoner. Like how do they judge you on it?
They're probably going to go to Club Fed. So the federal system has got more money because it's backed by the US federal government. Now, there are some crazy federal prisons, but there's also the Club Feds, the luxury ones where the politicians go to and stuff like that. The state systems have got no money, and they're the dregs. And, it's just like they just treat you like you're absolute shit in there. And
I spent a very short amount of time in a federal prison. Not one eyeball was plucked while I was there.
Not a single one.
Not a single one.
You said the states have no money.
Oh, go ahead.
Is it that the states have no money, or that a chunk of that goes towards profit?
The states don't spend hardly anything compared to the feds on the prison conditions. They probably just pocket it. That's what they do. I mean, they have huge budgets. Arizona's got a massive budget for prisons. I think education's like 20th and prisons is like 3rd on the list. So someone's taking that money somewhere along the way. But by warehousing prisoners, feeding them food that you can barely eat, and having 2 guards watching a couple hundred prisoners, that's how they maximize the profits. And that's why there are escapes. In Arizona, they were so cheap, they hadn't fixed the alarm. It had gone off falsely like 200 times approximately in 1 month. So when some prisoners did escape, the guards were like, all right, it's just going off again falsely. And those prisoners went on a murder spree, and people can look that up. It's online about the Arizona prison escape, alarm going off, the guards ignored it, and people got killed.
Wow. So just curious, in pop culture, whether it's movies, TV shows, I'm sure they get prison, all bits of it wrong all the time. But is there a show or something out there that you watched about prison? You're like, holy shit, this one feels way more real than the rest. Or none of them are hitting the mark.
So there are some silly ones, but there are some good ones as well. None of them are 100%. I think Prophet was a French film. It was really gritty and depressing, portrayed it well. There's a movie called Shot Caller, and there's a finance guy. He runs a red light with his woman and his friend and her wife, and his friend dies, and he's had too much to drink, so he gets sent down. Now, when he goes in with the new arrivals in the night, there's this skinny black guy walks in, and he's looking down really nervous, not giving off the right body language. that guy gets gang raped in the night. So the finance guy's like, shit, you know, the AB guys have been checking him out and they think he's a lame. So when he gets challenged the next day, he just starts throwing punches. He's like, I'm not going to lay down for nobody, and that happened to me. And then the gang start to see his potential. They have him carrying drugs, carrying knives, putting in more and more work. But then he gets so much time. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but, you know, basically he just makes the situation way worse for himself. And that movie answers one of the questions you asked earlier about, you know, shot callers. You know, yeah, they can get the hustle on and make things out of it, but also they could get a hell of a lot more time added on. They may never even get out.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good movie. I saw that a while back.
I saw it too.
I need to check that out.
It's got what's his name that plays Jaime Lannister in Game of Thrones. He's the main character.
He gets
Is that
strong
one
during the movie.
brawl in cell block? I can't remember the number, but that's a good one too.